So you're thinking about starting a podcast?
I know I have to start a podcast because I feel like it's an important marketing tool in our modern business world. And I always make the joke that it's like all those guys in the 90s who said that they didn't want a website because, oh, why would I need a website? Everybody has a website. And they felt like they were just jumping on a bandwagon at that point, and they resisted really hard. And now it would be ridiculous to think about running a business without a website. And so I don't want to be one of those people who falls into that same trap, because I definitely feel like I'm like, oh, everybody and their dog has a podcast and can jump on the bandwagon. That's when you know that you need one and that it's become a staple of the way we do business. And so I've come to that determination finally. I do feel like it's a long-term commitment. I want to make sure that I'm going into it carefully and thoughtfully, but especially that I'm not spinning my wheels and wasting my time producing content that is not going to move my business forward on the important KPIs that are our business goals. And so I feel a little bit lost on how to do this in the most effective way possible.
All right. So let me unpack a little bit. It's become a staple, but you want to make sure that it's actually going to move the business forward, and you're lost to know how to do it the most effective way.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the KPIs? How do you know if it's being effective? There's a couple ways for me to think about it. First and foremost, it's going to be hard to track in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That's the sad part, because think of your success with a lot of things being that you really see the fruits of your labors later.
Mm-hmm.
And with a podcast, for example, it's normally you want to push as hard as you can in the first few weeks and then just keep pushing, but really go hard for the first 8 weeks and then keep really pushing. You might see some downloads, but the downloads aren't money. It's not ROI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then after, you wait another 6 months, a year, 18 months, 2 years, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, there's almost an exponential growth.
Mm-hmm.
Where this year you might get up to, let's just say 100 downloads per episode. Next year, in a normal world, next year you might get up to 300. The year after that, you might get up to 400 or 500. The year after that, 600 or 800. And then it starts to kind of grow a little bit more rapidly. So you go from 800 to 3,500 in a relatively short amount of time, and from 3,500 to 6,500 in a relatively short amount of time. And it is because those listeners are telling their friends and all of this. And you still may not see the ROI specifically, just with a higher amount of listeners. There's a few other things that you'll need. You'll need calls to action. You'll need a funnel. You'll need to know the direction, what you're trying to accomplish, have good lead magnets. You'll have to stay consistent, always record on the same time. So there's a few big, overwhelming things that can happen for a podcast if you want to make sure it's working. The point on the first point I'm making, though, is that it's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be, I put in $1, I get in $1.50. That was cool. Let's keep putting in dollars. It's kind of like you put in time and energy and money in, the first, before you even launch it. And while you're launching it, and maybe even for the first year of launching it. And then it should start to pay for itself for most people. Now, working with our team is a little bit different because it can be a little bit faster because we're doing paid advertising. And when you're doing paid advertising, you're getting in front of people faster. And so that curve can get ramped up a little bit. But just think of it like I'm going to do this for the long haul, and I'm not going to need an ROI immediately. But onto what types of things are ROI. How do you know? You might start getting, I call them discovery calls, strategy calls, free coaching calls, discovery calls. What that would mean for you, Emma, you're trying to raise capital through your podcast. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we have a couple of markers of whether or not this is effective. One, are we raising capital for our real estate deals, either through joint venture partners or limited partners into our club? The second is my husband finally came to me recently and told me he's ready to quit his job. And now I'm having a little bit of an anxiety reaction because I want to make sure that we have some pretty clear timelines of when we're going to start to see some ROI, not just from the podcast, but from all of the marketing in general. So affiliate links on our marketing, maybe offering some sort of a paid accountability group is what we're launching soon, the beta group for that, where we're not just waiting for large investments to turn around and we're not just raising capital to try and get acquisition fees. We're also launching a fund. So there are a lot of things that we're doing right now to get more active income because we're pretty close to retiring on passive income, but we're not quite there. And so I felt, okay, well, we really need to scramble this last year or so before that happens. And I really want to build something that we can continue to work on after the passive income so that we are reaching our vision board goals. Like, are we really helping people? Are we really providing value? And something that motivates us that we love doing, that we're going to continue doing even when we don't have to work anymore. So like I said, I want to just be thoughtful and methodical about it to make sure that we're checking as many of those boxes as possible and not just jump into it and start putting out content that doesn't really fit our brand, doesn't really fit our goals. And then we're going to have to pivot later on and redefine it. And just want to make sure I know we're going to make mistakes, but I want to try and minimize that as much as possible so we got to monetize it very quickly so that he can come into the business and work on it. So he's going to support a lot of the stuff that's making me nervous, the logistics of it, like the technical aspects of it, some of the administrative work that needs done. He can jump in and help out with that more than he can while he's working full time. So that's a huge thing that's happened in the last couple of weeks that I'm like deer in the headlights still.